What I'm going to tell you today goes against all the programming that you've ever had. And for some, it's just going to be too much to fathom. But first, we need to go back to the original program and how it was installed in this human operating system when we were really little, and how we came to believe that this program was our actual identity, and how perception and the mind's interpretation and feelings and emotions and memory all developed into this narrative that has run our lives and has become who we thought we actually were. Hey there, I'm Jess, and you are watching Living Free, where we talk about the things that can get us stuck in life and basic strategies and inspiration to overcome them. If you support this kind of work, please consider subscribing and give me a thumbs up. Have you ever considered if the story that you tell yourself about yourself is actually true? Now, we as humans, we naturally want to make sense of our world, so we create a sort of backstory, an explanation, a reason about why things are the way they are and why we are the way we are and why certain things happen. They justify how we live, and they can either propel us toward our aspirations or they can hold us back. And today I want to explore how our narratives, how they affect and they shape our life experience, and how they can have an impact on our emotional states and how we behave. And these stories can be a big reason why, we get stuck in all kinds of addictions. We are even addicted to the stories themselves, and we just can't seem to get beyond them. We started creating stories about ourselves when we were children, and we were starting to learn language and to think conceptually. It's just how we made sense of the world. Most of the stories were downloaded from the adults in our lives, stories about who we are, how we should be, and how we should feel about ourselves. And a lot of times the programming formed into this unconscious definition of who we think we are. And some of us were programmed to believe that life is meant to be hard, it's meant to be a struggle, that the world is a dangerous place and we should be afraid, that people can't be trusted, and really they just want to hurt us. The programming is our beliefs. And when confirmation bias comes in, we find that evidence to strengthen our beliefs. These are like security updates to the program, and often these beliefs are really not even based in reality, only our perception of it. And they can keep us trapped. They can keep us from experiencing loving relationships. We can't seem to forgive anyone. They can keep us in a place of shame. These stories can become a self-imposed prison of suffering. I'm here to tell you that you are not your belief, you're not your story, you're not your programming, because you have believe these narratives to the point that you actually identify with them as them. They are how you have come to define yourself, mostly on an unconscious level. Now, when I began to understand that these stories were something that I created entirely in my psyche, that they don't have to actually define who I was, and in fact, they never did. They are simply a mental construct, an image of what I believed, and it became a filter through which I misperceived reality for years. Some of you watching this won't be able to believe this, and you're just going to take this as pure nonsense. And this is just how strong the hold our stories can have on us. How dare you, Jess, tell me that I am not who I am and that my story has no meaning? And I'm not telling you that at all. I'm saying that we don't have to be imprisoned by these stories, and the meanings, they don't have to define us. Stories are beliefs about things that happened in life. They aren't actually you, but because we have assigned them so much meaning, they have become embedded in our sense of identity, and the feeling of them holds it together so that we can't even imagine ever letting them go and being free of their effects. And because these stories have become our sense of identity, they are also confused as life itself, and letting go of our beliefs feels like we're letting go of life. Like you, I've experienced traumatic things in life. They have defined me. I believed that I was a victim, I was a survivor, I was an overcomer, I was also a worthless failure, a drunk. But none of these things were true. They were just meanings and feelings that I attached to various things that happened in life. I really didn't know that I had a choice to let those self-definitions go. Now, these narratives are woven into our very being from the memories and perceptions, and it's completely natural. We have a human need to make sense of things. In doing so, though, we personalize and internalize all of it, and they stay there until we are ready to accept and face them for what they are. Now, as we go through life, the story of us becomes the foundation of who we think we are. It's our identity. They are our beliefs, our way of being in the world. They are like that software program that runs us. It's a software of identity that has become strengthened over time. And as we went through life, we may have added various plugins here and there. We've picked up some malware, things that further warp our sense of actual reality, conditioned emotional reactions, feelings, and ways of perceiving, none of which reflect reality as it is. Do you see what some of us are doing to ourselves here? And sometimes these stories are like voices. They just never shut up. The mind constantly recites these narratives, whether we want to hear it or not. We want to escape. That is all we know. We no longer want to hear it, and we want to feel better at any cost. We lose ourselves in all sorts of addictions, anything to take us away from the incessant thinking that keeps giving the stories energy and perpetuates our bad feelings about a self that isn't even real, a self wholly made up in the mind. We may have moments where we think, how the hell did I get here? How did I get myself into this mess? Addicted and stuck. And hopefully we have reached the end of our rope and are ready to surrender. All of our ways of trying to cope have yet to work, and we decide that no matter what, we will find a way, even if that means letting go of the very stories, the beliefs that we have defined our lives by. At the actual point of surrender, clarity can come rushing in. We see the illusions for what they are. Our minds are incredible illusion generators, and I'm not discounting all the pain. It is natural and it is felt deeply. I acknowledge that. But we have to recognize what has been keeping that pain there. What stories are holding that pain in place? And until that clarity happens and a decision is made, you're not going to be able to do this. You have to decide that you want to live free of your stories for the rest of your life. Stories of unforgiveness, of failure, shame, of self-righteousness, anger, grudges, resentments, being a victim, and all kinds of labels that you've given yourself over your lifetime that have cemented into this false identity that you've been carrying around. Even if work is involved, a decision made in true surrender is the way out, and you will start to shed the aspects of the false identity that you have collected over the course of your life. So now that we've acknowledged that, yes, we've been living in a mental construct of our personal narrative our whole life, not only do we recognize that, but we accept that it's okay. Every human being on earth is doing this, so we don't have to think that we're different or that we're weird. I believe that one of the most important purposes that we have as humans is to overcome this, to wake up to who we really are in our true essence, to wake up out of the identity that is merely a construct of mind, to wake up out of this dream that we have been stuck in. Therapy and deep inner work are some ways to start to see through the stories, and we can start to question their validity. I'm not saying therapy is absolutely essential, but it can be very helpful. It can help reframe our experiences as, just things that happen. We can begin to see how we have internalized our experiences and how they have affected who we believed we were. We didn't know who we were apart from those things. We realized that we no longer have to use the past as a way to justify who we are right now in the reality of the immediate present. This process is not easy, but it's worth it. If you want to be liberated from the past, bit by bit, we can uninstall this software that we've been running our whole lives. We can upgrade our human operating system in a new way that really isn't identity-based anymore. Sounds really weird though, huh? So today we're talking about how we are not the narrative of our past. We are not the things that happen to us. We can honor our past without letting it imprison us. When we decide that we want to do the work, we can actually lose our hold on it bit by bit. We don't see any more usefulness in holding on to these past feelings. This is going to start happening when we start to actually taste the freedom and the healing that is possible for every single human being on the planet if they want it. And we can begin to build this new foundation of being. But we have to remember this one thing. The ego identity can't help itself. The ego has to be laid down, which is often the most challenging part and is the reason why we stay addicted to our stories and in many other areas of our lives. The ego is addicted to itself and is itself a mental construct. True surrender is laying down that ego. We are not helpless. We are not choiceless. We don't have to be passive to the egoic, identity-based mind and what it's doing, I encourage you to explore this notion of being liberated from the attachment to our stories and see how they have become the reason for justifying our behaviors and our actions and our mindsets. A new story can emerge about how you are no longer owned by your past, about how the things that happened in the past are no longer resisted. The resistance is the attachment, and now those strings are being cut one by one. It's a story of being liberated, of healing, and the start of a sort of rebirth into a new chapter of life. Loosening the ties to our past doesn't mean that we're saying it doesn't matter, that it wasn't painful, that it wasn't powerful. It means that we're deciding that it doesn't matter in the same way. They don't matter in the sense that they don't define us, and they never did. Our subjective mind decided it did, so we let it in and we gave it a home as our identity. This is part of the programming, but we can start to remove the layers of this identity programming. It's like removing layers and layers of a costume that we've been thinking is us for our entire lives. Our attachment to our past is the reason why we justify our beliefs, how we behave and react, our personality, our anger problems, our hate problems, the grudges that we hold, and our addictions. No matter what is going on in your life on the outside, you can become liberated here. This practice is usually a process rather than a one and done. And going through this process for the rest of my life is way better than remaining stuck in the identity pattern of suffering. When we stop saying no to reality as it is, we will no longer be attached to it. So if you found this video valuable, please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up. And if you feel like sharing, I would love to hear your insights in the comments below. Thanks for being here with me today, and I will see you next time.